This episode of Liquid Assets is sponsored by HASA, the leader in water treatment solutions. HASA delivers eco-friendly, reliable, and cost-effective water care and has been keeping communities safe, one drop at a time. They've been at it for more than 60 years, and you can learn more about HASA by visiting hasa.com. That's hasa.com. Welcome to Liquid Assets. Liquid Assets is a podcast that covers the intersection of management, technology, and business, all as it looks at the world of water. Today, we have an awesome guest for you, Mr. Ramon Rubio.
I'm Ramon Rubio. I'm founder of the Water MBA. We're going to have a great time here chatting with Ravi about water.
Ramon, how are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for your invitation. I'm very happy to be here with you to talk about water a little.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for tuning in. So before we kicked off, you were talking about your job in Saudi. Let's just go ahead and jump into that. What is that job? What's the company? What do you do? I think there's like a lot of things to explore there because you kind of cover this wide gamut of projects. So yeah, let's kick off.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you. To start, let's say 12 years ago, I started as civil engineering. I finished my degree. And then I started in a company which was called Abengoa here in Spain. And they were very powerful in the water department, doing desalination and so on. And then 2 years ago, I had the privilege to join with the rest of my colleagues to Innovation Water Application Company, which is a Saudi-based company. It's a proud member of Wetico, which is also one of the longest active players in the market for providing turnkey solution for water and wastewater. So it's a Saudi-based company. We are working from Spain, from the south of Spain in Seville. So we are here around 70 people, and we are this synergy, of also in line with the vision of the Kingdom of Saudi for 2030. To help also this country to advance in the water projects, and I think the experience is being very rich in terms of personal and professional experience because of new culture, global, and we are very happy to that.
Really cool. I just a few things kind of popped up there. Let's take a trip back to desalination. Desalination has come up a few times on the podcast, mostly from an energy perspective. And the biggest question that I get asked, right, when I push these episodes out is desalination even possible, right? Like, obviously, we know the technology's there. You take the salt out of the water. We have a bunch of salt water around the world, and then you use that non-salted water to use for freshwater issues. What are the problems? What do you see? Like, is it possible? Can we deploy them in wide scale? What's the delta here?
Yeah, I mean, desalination is true that is nowadays a more, let's say, frequent topic, especially because in the end, worldwide, in the many countries, they are reaching and getting closer to, let's say, the water stress line or water, in which, in the end, the fresh water availability in these countries are, not enough to cope with, to keep up with the pace of increasing demand. First of all, because of global population is increasing, so obviously, the more population we have, the more use of water that we need. Also, the change of habits, for example, the food. We are increasing the water use of due to the increase of the food. So in the end, regardless, if we're in the same or we have the same water availability, if we use more, we need to make up this delta in a certain way. And obviously, desalination has been very, let's say, the present has been very active from time ago in these countries, whose origin was the most stressful in terms of the water security, water availability, such as Middle East and North of Africa, for sure. Also South Africa. I think in California, probably you should have some of these. And well, the question of if this is expensive or not, I would say that obviously it's more expensive than obtaining fresh water from, let's say, reservoirs, or even the now is more also very common, the reuse of water, utilization, regenerate the wastewater to make fresh water for different use. So it's true that it's more expensive, but in the end we need to think that the 97% of the water in the world is salty. is in the sea.
Mhm.
Okay, so obviously, I think we will never run out of water as in the planet. The problem is that we will run out of availability of fresh water. So the solution obviously is holistic, let's say integral. No, you need to think that it's not only desalination is the only solution. I think each area and each region has to take into account which are their needs, okay, the pros and cons of each region. And I think desalination is a key player to ensure in the near future the freshwater availability and security for our progress as human, okay, to allow us that the basic need of water, food, and energy allow us to progress and obviously improve the productivity of other focus on other aspects. So yes, it's more expensive, but for example, in Middle East, now you can find during 25 years to generate 1 cubic meters of water, that is 1,000 liters. It's around maybe 50 cents.
Mm.
Okay, so there is something that is that I think is misleading by maybe by the media or by, let's say, people that maybe are not totally aware of this technology to say that this technology is expensive. It's more expensive, obviously, than others, but it's more expensive not having water or whatever. So I think from my point of view, it's a very good technology that is mature. But again, there is a long way again to improve even for the efficiency, the energy efficiency of the consumption, even the brine rejection. So it's a good technology, but again, there is a long way to keep improving.
I think you raise an interesting point there is the alternative is not having fresh water, right? And so if we're looking at a spectrum of technologies, one being, like you said, wastewater recycling, but then secondarily, how do you augment that with desalination? Um, yeah, it's definitely an interesting point based off of your ceiling and your baseline of where do you stand in your freshwater allocation, basically. Um, and 100%, yeah, focusing on areas that are like California, the Middle East, where there is a not that high of an availability of fresh water, definitely points the finger there. So let's kind of move to the work that you do with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Um, what's your work there? You had mentioned they're part of Wadico. Can you kind of explain what the ecosystem, what is the world that this company lives in, and kind of like what kind of work do you do?
Yeah, for example, let's say all my experience, be it in Wetico or in previous company, in the end, we start now from the, let's say, business development, in which we identify, the needs of the different countries, okay, from municipalities, government. They obviously analyze and they try to anticipate, that they need certain demand of water in the next, let's say, 10 years, because we need to always think that when you need water to construct a desalination or a project like this, it's not like in 1 year you will have water where you want. It means that you need to take a process of probably of 5, 8 years since the day that the government of the municipality is aware that has not a problem, but needs to keep the pace with the population or with the demand that they need. So obviously, from this stage, we are starting to support the clients that are basically, as I said, municipality, governments, or even private developers. Okay, and we start to support with them with, let's say, consultancy. They want to construct and say a new plan, and they need to go to the market to ask, this is what I need. How can I do it? Because in the end, in this stage, is very important to analyze the different alternatives that you have, even location of the plants, amount of water that you need, the best technology, how it's going to be the operation or the type of contract that this client is going to need. And then we start in this. And then imagine that now the client is very clear, that they want to create let's say, a destination plan in this area with this plot that I've been discussing already 2 years. And then they start the tender stage, let's say, let's put an example that is an EPC contractor, that in the end, what they do is the client wants certain quality of water with certain flow, and then with certain, let's say, client requirements, okay, that in each project and each client, change, okay, let's say, and even significantly. And then obviously our job is to try to analyze what the client needs and then to propose what is the best solution complying with the requirements. Okay, so imagine that they want a desalination plan of 100,000 cubic meters per day. And then we say that, okay, I will, we are part of the tender stage. We brainstorming about the best solution, always taking into account always the CapEx and OpEx analysis. This is very important because in the end, what can be cheap for me maybe it's expensive for them in the long term. And in the end, what we want is a win-win and to get the best price in the end for the user, which in the end is the consumer and the people. And then imagine that we provide let's say a proposal, and then because of for any reason we get the let's say the selected one, okay, to construct this project in an EPC contract, which in the end is a turnkey contract that we need to comply with certain requirements. And let's say, imagine that it takes between 2 years and 3 years, let's say a medium big scale project, okay? Because in the end, there is always a critical path that no matter, you cannot do it in 2 or 3 months because in the end you need to manufacture and to have the approval process of the design and so on. So imagine now that we start in the APC stage, that is around, let's say, 3 years of project. So we then assign the people, the resources. For example, we start from with the design and the engineering, let's say, stage. And then we also have the procurement and the construction. Okay. So in this sequence, in three years, we coordinate with the client, with the consultant of the client, because in the end, the client has to audit, or supervise that what we are doing is more or less in line with the contract, in line with the technical specification that they need, that we are following the schedule and we will not delay, because in the end we can have liquid damage. And then we are a huge, let's say, team of maybe, I don't know, considering people from site, we can be maybe 1,000, 2,000 people working all together in order to construct this mid and big scale of the desalination plant, let's say, in certain time. And to be honest, it's one of the best stages, obviously, because it's quite sometimes stress, because obviously there is a lot of mix of cultures, different peoples. In the end, your experience comes from the previous project, but then a new project, you meet with new people that are coming from other projects. So every time you put on the table all the ideas, there is always a clash. Okay, and sometimes depending on how flexible you are, you need to listen to the rest of the people and so on. That's the good experience, but sometimes it's also the source of the problems. And then imagine that after 3 years, we, let's say, commission the plant. Everything is working well. We are producing the potable water. We drink it. We try it. That is in line with the quality and the flavor. And then usually this plant is later operated during 25 years or 20 years by another company, or maybe it's an hour contract, to operate 22 years. And then during 25 years, another company will operate. Okay? That in this case, I am not that experienced, to be honest.
Really interesting. A few points I want to touch on there. So if we go back, I guess just kind of for the audience to kind of re-summarize, maybe for you too, if I understood this correctly, you guys will go out basically and run business development, right? You'll find municipalities, potentially governments, large private clients that need primarily potable water, or are you also doing like wastewater? Is it just kind of water across the board, or is it mostly potable water?
It's anything related to water. I mean, it can be potable water coming from desalination plants. It can be wastewater treatment. It can be industrial water treatment for private companies or whatever. It can be water treatment and distribution, which means I generate the water, but then I have to pump it through a pipeline, 200 kilometers, and dispose in a terminal point. So all related to the cycle of water, we can handle.
Got it. Okay. And the majority of these geographies and municipalities are in the Middle East that you're working with, or you can kind of work across the board in India, Pakistan, Southeast Asia?
We can, but at this moment, I think that our value, let's say, our main value is in the Middle East and North of Africa, because we are there and it's where we feel now comfortable. So we are probably we will not be close to any, obviously, opportunity, but in the end, is our main value.
Yeah, makes sense. And so you have these projects in Northern Africa, Middle East, from everything from water pumping to the creation of fresh water to wastewater. And then, if I understood that correctly, it takes anywhere between 5 to 7 years to identify the project, get a proposal, work with an EPC provider, which, for the audience out there, EPC does stands for engineering, procurement, and construction. And then once you get that, then you basically hit reset on the project every single time you step in that room, because all of the people and the players are different. And then you basically launch the project. And if I understood correctly, then for 20 to 25 years after, do you help manage that project, or you find somebody else to kind of operate it? What does that look like?
Usually not, because of the the current type of the contract in the market is usually to have the separated the EPC from the operation. Okay, depending on the, obviously there's not let's say fully clear, no, but there are another option that, for example, is a BOT contract that in the end you build, operate, and transfer, and then you are a developer, and then you have this contract with your client. But with from our side, we are usually more, let's say, focused on the EPC part. Okay, so we get this EPC, and then we transfer for the operation to another company, and that is not our responsibility. But it doesn't mean that we cannot do it. But in the end, it's not again our main value nowadays.
And you had mentioned that there's a little bit of heartburn every single time that you step into a room with new players and new partners. What's kind of an example, or do you have a story that comes to mind where you had suggested something, or that you guys had a proposal, but the partners in the room didn't understand that? And how did you solve that? How did you move past it?
Well, we may have hundreds of points like this. In the end, it's a matter that maybe you in previous project did, I don't know, a design of of a pipeline. You install, no? You supply and install, I don't know, a carbon steel pipe, because for any reason, okay? And then you go to the next one, and then you say, okay, I will use this one because this is what I know. I know how to supply, I know how to handle it. And then maybe the client is not experiencing this type of material, or they want to change it to another, and then it's more expensive. So, but there is no technical reason to do that, because of the client has not previous experience with your pipe. So it's only an example, but in the end, it's only a matter that every person has experience from their from their previous past projects or colleagues, no, and it's always very, let's say, fruitful also to put in common all the knowledge, no, let's say, on the table, and then to find the best solution for all the parties. That's the main. But in the end, obviously, we are human, we are people, and we have are driven sometimes for ambitious and so on, and someone has to keep the right decision. So yes, there is always open points about the quality of the material, the quality of steel, about the corrosion, for example. Protection in Middle East is very important, because in the end you can supply, let's say, a carbon steel, let's say, pump, okay, and then it will corrode it in 2 years. So obviously you need to try to keep, with certain CapEx, the longest period of time that the plant is functioning properly. Okay, so yeah, these are the things of discussion, but I think it's also the source of knowledge also, no? and the positive side of these new projects.
And you had mentioned the 2030 vision when we first kicked off the pod. Can you explain a little bit about that? I've heard kind of rumors, and I've seen a few videos, I think, of like the line or something online. What exactly is the 2030 vision?
Well, I will give my opinion, because I'm not, let's say, 100% sure, no, let's say, or accurate maybe, but I remember that I went to Saudi, I think, in 2016 for first time, or 15. And then I remember on 2017 or 18 that they apply, this, let's say, agenda Vision 2030. And in the end, let's say, I will summarize with my own words, okay? Now, maybe not official, but in the end, I think Saudi is willing not to give a step, into the front line of, let's say, of the global politics and reference in terms of sustainability, culture, living quality, equality also. So now they plan, I think, a lot of projects no, and changes in the cities, okay, to be in the front line of also innovation, universities. So they want in the end to do. I think they really want to do the things well, in my opinion. For me, it has been very impressive to see what they are doing in the last 2 or 3 years. They are really working very hard to do the things very well. Okay, and to be honest, now it's a pleasure for me every time I go to Riyadh or Jeddah and so on. It's impressive to see how the city is very very live. All the people is very, let's say, happy, no, motivated to be part of the country and the progress and the changes that they are doing. And I think that in few years there will be a global, let's say, potential, because I think they deserve it, first of all, because what they are doing is also that they have also capital, no, to invest and to do very interesting projects. Well, that's the point, no? Not depend probably in the oil, no, and gas sector, or only known, no, only because of this, but I think they will be the reference in many aspects as urban development with NEOM, no, and the line. So really very interesting. I'm very happy to be part of this journey with them.
And what are, for the audience out there that don't know of the 2030 vision, or Vision 2030, sorry, is the right way that they write it. What is a few examples of the projects that they are launching in the next handful of years?
Well, for example, I think in the West Coast, that in the end is the Red Sea area, that now, as you know, is having some issues now because of the war. In the Red Sea, they are, I think, creating NEOM, I think, which is in the end is a region, let's say a state, in which inside they have different reference. For example, they have, I think, the line, which is this vertical urban city, very modern, no, with very flexible for the easy walking, no, to all the service that you need and so on. And I also have, for example, one of the biggest green hydrogen plants under construction in this area. I think they are also constructing a touristic place called, I think, Red Sea Global. It's in a mala that is basically hotels and everything for touristic. Okay, but very respectful with the environment. Okay, so imagine if we have to work there, the environment, the respect to the environment must be maximum. It's a priority. Okay, so for example, if we need to do some intake and outfall to get water for the desalination, everything has to be designed and planned very carefully to respect the water, because not only for the nature, but also for daily activities and so on. So as I said, this is for sustainability and power by renewable energy, okay, with PV plants, wind farms, and so on. For example, in Riyadh, I think they are creating one of the biggest park, no, public park, that is King Salman Park. It's very impressive. The projects, they are, let's say, they demolished part of the city. I think it was the old airport, if I'm not wrong. But if you go there, and maybe I don't know how many kilometers, but it's impressive the work that they are doing there. So this is only a few examples. But as I said, it's also about culture, events, leisure, no? In the end, no? Concerts, sports, everything. They are doing very well.
Yeah, one of the questions I was going to ask, and I think you said this a few times, is around sustainability, right? Obviously, with very large scale developments, that's always the point in mind of, are we doing it sustainably? What are the negative and positive implications to building things on the land, to using the land, using the water, etc. And I think you touched on that. Any other points around sustainability that you wanna focus on or spotlight?
Well, for sustainability, it's a very general word that someone can say that you are totally green, no? But I think sustainability is not to be green or to be supporter of fossil fuels. I think it's a matter of that. Obviously, the fact of sustainability makes sense. That in the end is to progress in certain way that you do not compromise the future generation. Okay, and you always keep progressing in a sustainable way. Obviously, we need to be aware that as human, to progress, we need to, in certain way, to to modify our, let's say, environment, no, in certain way. So, okay, I need to get water from the sea. I need to dispose brine, but let's say this, let's say, affection, in my opinion, it's very local. Maybe in the past, in certain location, imply, no, let's say the corals, no, if you obviously dispose this directly into the corals, you have a problem. But if you dispose it very deep, or you plan it carefully, the impact is minimal compared to the positive aspect of this project. So, for sustainability, it's very good, but always with common sense. Okay, it's not only about being rational, but also being reasonable. Okay, we need to understand that we need to make some changes, some progress, and the more sustainable, the better. But in the end, we need to find also the economic feasibility of our progress. Okay, as an energy transition, for example. Okay, we have a very cheap an alternative, but very expensive, or not. That, for example, the PV plant is not allowing not to keep you unstable supply. So you need to balance, and with common sense, you need to progress, and obviously looking for the sustainability, the more the better. But always not compromising always the progress and the economic viability of the progress.
I want to change gears a little bit and spotlight on Ramon himself. You had mentioned that you are an engineer. You studied that, I think, what you said 12 or 15 years ago. If you take even a step back further than that, why did you choose engineering? Was there something that, like, your parents said? I always love to look into the individuals that I have on the pod to figure out what actually makes you tick.
That's a good question. As you know, it has not an easy answer. I remember that before starting my degree, I had a reference that was my grandfather, my uncle, and they were civil engineers, both of them. For me, to be honest, my grandfather was one of the main reference in my family. So I felt, or I received the feeling of the civil engineer aspect, of the positive impact that it has in the communities. Okay, the wide range of application that you can do. I mean, to be civil doesn't mean that you need to do bridges. You can construct hydropower plants or whatever. So I think I took the decision because in that time also it has let's say a good salary also in that time. Now it was different 5 years later after the crisis. So that was the origin of the decision. Okay, and as I developed during the degree, I remember that the water subjects, okay, or topics were more fun, let's say, for me. All the things related to hydraulic works, wastewater, and so on. I had a better, it looks better for me, okay, than the specialized in structural or whatever, or other application, or even bridges. It was more difficult for me, but water, I think I found the feel, to to be myself, and to help the others, and with a lot of teamwork, and possibility to travel, and in the end, the water is our will to live. And in the end, we have a long way again, to keep the basic needs, in developed countries, and in the developed countries, we need to keep up with with new technologies to improve the reuse of the water. So I think water, if I gave a step back, I probably will do the same. Okay, so that's probably a good answer, that I am where I want to be, and I will not change anything from my last 10 years.
It's awesome to hear. And I love that connection back to your uncle and your grandfather being civil engineers themselves. In kind of Ramon's profile that I've seen, obviously, you have this strong belief in kind of continuous learning and improvement. And I want to talk a little bit about the Water MBA. You have this program that you started. Can you just kind of talk a little bit about that? What is the Water MBA? Where'd you come up with the idea? How does it work?
Sure. Basically, during the last 12 years, it's true that one of the drawbacks, or negative aspect that I found, my personal experience, maybe it's not for all the companies or professionals, but there was a special lack of training. And I mean, after you graduate, it seems that it's over. No, you cannot keep studying. You cannot keep learning. It's very difficult to access to high quality of training. Back then, I remember that I had to spend 1 week not to travel to whatever place, to very expensive to hotels, no, and the course itself, very inconvenient, I would say. Now it's true that after the COVID, with the digital and so on, the things improve a little. But again, from my side, I personally wanted to keep learning, okay, and hearing, point of view from different professionals, collaborate with people, help people to do better. I always try to progress every day. I try to do better and to learn new things. Right? And not only about water, but I also about reading or whatever other aspects. So in the end, I remember 1 year ago that now in a digital, let's say, era, that we are able, everybody to connect, let's say, easily, and maybe to do something of high value without being very expensive, and adapted to the people's life, that, is very difficult nowadays, not to find the time, to spend 1 weekend in a master, during 2 years. So I try to let's say, to start, this initiative that in the end is a digital, let's say, business school that in the end we create content of training with the support of individual professionals and company that we think they are in line with, let's say, the quality and the purpose of improving the water management worldwide. Okay, so I think along the supply chains of the water projects, be it a supplier, that you supply simple pumps, or you are a contractor that is providing turnkey solution, you are the developer, or even you are the public entity that you are responsible for planning, your water demand and your requirement. I think if we are all together, sit, discuss, and learn new things, in a flexible way, and convenient way and accessible, I think after many years, probably many people, professional, will do better, will feel happier, in my opinion. And that's our purpose in the end, is to try every day to learn a new thing, to share the knowledge with the users that are interested at the best cost and possible. With the recorded content, we will try to create a live season also, to connect and to discuss face to face. So that's the purpose. I mean, as I said, is the motivation, that you wake up every day and to try to help the people. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What who is the courses built for? Are these for people that are just coming out of college, that are engineers, that are looking to get into the water world? Is it for continuous education? I mean, who's like the demographic here?
At this moment, it's for continuous education. For example, it's I will advise now to water professional that maybe, obviously, for new graduates, it's also important because they have an insight, into the water sector, although maybe they don't understand some parts, but in the end, it will be a continuous flow of knowledge. But in the end, I think, in my case, I am creating, what I would like to learn. So obviously, after 12 years, I will create many hours, or will create many hours of content that I didn't, let's say, had not clear, or we want to put a picture, in a practical way so that people can understand. I know people that, have been the last 20 years in wastewater treatment plant, and they want to learn about desalination. So that's water, the good point is that you can change, in different fields, let's say. For example, you are a technician for the last 15 years, but then you want to give a step and do some project management, for example. Project management in water projects, you need to be aware, of, let's say, contracts, how to handle the clients, which are the main aspects during the engineering and procurement stage, how is the integration, the coordination. You need to have a different mindset to be aware of how to do this work. So I would advise this, let's say, platform for, as I said, water professional with experience, especially that wants to keep learning and to learn new things, and to simply to listen, to others, and or see a technical detail of certain equipment that they are not aware and they need to fight, in the next project. So as I said, open for everyone.
Awesome. Makes sense. Yeah. And for those folks listening that are just getting into the water industry. I know I have a lot of also the audience is just people that, work in tech or are lawyers or accountants, and they're just interested in water. Do you have a resource? It's okay if you don't, that people can go to kind of learn the bare bones of what's actually happening in water and what's going on?
Yeah, well, I mean, we have a general course that is the Water MBA that we are trying to do an integral, no, a journey, no, about all the aspects of the water, including the general, let's say, explanation of the water, no, in the regions, which is the water, then desalination, wastewater, pipelines, hydraulic water, irrigation. Okay, is very important because in the end, 70% of the water worldwide is used for irrigation and for food. So really, imagine that any slight efficiency in that part may compensate any increase of the water use for domestic or for industrial. So I think in that general, we try to explain in a, let's say, an a medium level, okay, not fully technical, not fully basic. And I think it can provide a very good vision even for professionals that are not from water. For example, I had a friend that was auditor, no, and in a big four, no, so maybe for water companies. He was interested to learn about the things about what's water, what is this regeneration of water. Can you explain to me? So obviously we will listen, no, to the users. If there is any specific users that they want to learn something, we will create a specific, a small, let's say, course for them, and I said very active with the users. A lot of networking and listening to the people what they need, and then we will create tailored solution for them as long as we have capabilities. Obviously.
What's your most viewed or taken class right now, or the top few? What are people looking at when they're coming to the Water MBA?
Well, for example, I've different example. One of them was very interesting in, let's say, it was hydrogeologist. I think hydrogeologist is the name in English, and he wanted to expand, okay, the knowledge. He wanted to learn about water in general. Another, for example, is a company, let's say a big company that had the problem that their business development department was not connected with the EPC department. So in the end, the department that was doing the tendering, once they sign the project, the EPC does not give the enough feedback to the origin. So every project that they win, they do the same mistake in a in a vicious cycle. Okay, so in the end, they lose money, they lose money, they lose money, and in the end, obviously, we need to have our benefit, no, along the supply chain. So they were interested to incorporate in the human resources training plan this course, let's say for 3 or 4 people, no, key people among 200 people, to allow the managers to understand which maybe are the main aspects or the main cost risk of different projects, so they can understand and anticipate this risk, no, when they are tendering. So these are, for example, an example, no, of approaches that we have received.
Got it. Really cool. Ramon, I ask everybody this question before we end the podcast, and it is: do you have a book, a movie, or a TV show that has impacted you or given you the kind of overview effect of the world? It could be on the world in general or in the world of water.
Books. Well, I more than books than movies. So, for example, for books, I will say two of them. I will say Skin in the Game from, I think, Nicholas Taleb. I think they explain, no, that the people, until they don't have the skin in the game, no, that they feel the risk, no, that you don't trust, no, these people that they don't have a skin in the game, because in the end is when the people you need to trust them, and it's very interesting. And also I will say one up on Wall Street that is about financial, but I think also the long term, no, mindset helps the people financially and not financially to do better in life. Okay, now we live in an era or in a time, no, of we need everything now, okay, and quickly. And I think this long-term mindset for me helped me a lot, no, a few years ago, not only financially but also to apply in my daily life that things need to time to grow. You can destroy very quickly, but then in order to grow every day, no, you know, to think in the long term. And I think it's a very interesting book.
Really cool. Awesome. We'll definitely throw those on the show notes. Yeah, Nicholas Nassim Taleb is one of my favorite authors. Ramon, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you to you, Ravi, for having me.
And for all of those of you out there, you've been listening to Liquid Assets. If you want to learn more, you can go to liquidassets.cc. I'm your host, Ravi Kurani. Check us out on the next episode. Thanks for listening.